All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernard Lockhart, Center Director for the American Job Center in Harvey. We're excited for you to join us today to talk about interviewing, and excited that you will be attending the upcoming South Suburban College Career Connector event. And so we want to jump right into it and help you with the inside track to interviewing with confidence. And the goal for today is really to help you understand what your goals are for interviewing. And that really is about selling your experience and your skills, showing that you're excited about the opportunity and the organization while demonstrating that you are the best fit and the right person for the opportunity, and also giving yourself the chance to evaluate whether or not the organization and the role could potentially be a good match for you. It's kind of doing a little bit of a dating dance to see if you guys are going to work together in a working relationship. So I want to start by talking about how you could be the most impressive candidate, and that really begins with your research. And then really the question is, do you want to work there and do you want an interview with them? And in order to be able to better understand and answer that question, you got to start by doing your research. And that begins with looking at the company website, determining what's going on in the news, if there's been any recent events, what their mission is, what their vision is, their values, to see if there's some alignment there. You can also do your research by tapping into social media, looking at their Facebook and LinkedIn posts to learn a little bit more about what's going on with the organization. And using LinkedIn to find out about the people that you're going to be interviewing with. Maybe there's something that you all have in common. Maybe you guys went to the same school or from the same area, or have the same hobbies or interests. These things are potential anecdotes that you can share during the interview process. And then I'll just want to add this. If you do have any questions, we'll have a Q&A session at the end for you to ask any questions that may be specific to you, and we'll try to address those the best that we can. And so I want to jump right into the 5 tips for making the best impression. You've done everything on the phone screen, and now it's time to think about preparing for that interview. And so when you go in for that interview, you want to make sure that you have your resume and the actual job posting on hand. So if you need to make a reference to that, you can. You'll want to make sure that your posture is right, sitting upright, smiling, and staying upbeat, making sure that you're bringing that energy and showing that you really want to be there. You'll also want to avoid long-winded answers. Sometimes we can get off track if we're not careful, if we're not concise and to the point. And you'll also want to close on a strong note, ending with why you believe you're the best person for the opportunity, and expressing your interest in the role and why you're attracted to the organization. And then finally, what you want to do is negotiate a good day and time to meet in person, based on your schedule and their schedule, making sure you give yourself ample enough time, both in a day where you don't have a bunch of things going on, and if you have to travel a distance, making sure that you allot yourself enough time to arrive at the location. So the next step is really thinking about the best practices for the day of your interview. You'll want to make sure you get a good night rest before and eat a light meal beforehand. And also arrive no more than 10 minutes early. But you'll also want to make sure you leave enough time to get to the site or to your interview site. Maybe there's some construction going on. Exits are closed, so you just want to be prepared. You want to look up the names of the people that you'll be interviewing. Make sure you got some background on them. Do some researching on the About Us, and make sure you just dress professionally and have an extra copy of your resume. These are some good practices to make sure that you arrive on point and ready. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into the first impressions and your body language, because as they say, the first impression is a lasting impression, and so you want to make sure you're taking the strides to make your mark, and leave them with something. Leave them with the notion of, hey, we want to bring this person in again, or I want to learn a little bit more about this person. Let's bring them in for a second round. So those first impressions really do matter. And so first I want to start with what to wear. For an interview, for both men and women, you want to be business professional or business casual. And doing your research will be important to understand the organization and looking at some of the pictures, if you can, from the website or from social media, or how individuals dress at the company, and just being mindful of business professional is typically a blazer, and a skirt, or slacks, and nice dress shoes, making sure your shoes are nice and shined and not scuffed up. And then just, making sure that you're putting on a tire that's not wrinkled, and really just show off your best self to employers when you walk into the room. So once you've made your opening, you've shaken a couple hands, you've introduced yourself, maybe you're at the receptionist, you want to greet the interviewer by name and state your name. It's always good to hear how the pronunciation of their name, so that you get it right. Using a firm handshake, but not too firm where you're crushing bones. And you want to make good eye contact. Look people directly in the face. Make sure you smile. All of this goes into presenting a confident aura, and showing the interviewers that you belong, and that you are here to help them with their needs, potentially help them with their needs, and that you're the right candidate for the opportunity. So I do want to talk a little bit about some of the body language mistakes that you can make, so that you'll be mindful of what not to do, as far as the interview process, and also giving yourself the best opportunity to shine. And so a couple of the big first ones is failing to make eye contact and failing to smile. That typically shows the interviewer that you're just not interested, or there's low self-confidence there. You want to keep your hands pretty steady, and not be distracted by playing with little things on the table, or a little fanfare on the table, and sitting up straight. Making sure that you have good posture. Try to eliminate any fidgeting or crossing your arms. Typically, crossing the arms across the chest shows that you're disinterested or that you're guarded. Playing with your hair or touching your face, that just shows another distraction. Specifically with handshakes being too weak, again, that's another confidence issues. And so that we're using too many hand gestures. All of this goes into that body language, which is 90% of our communication. So maintaining good posture, maintaining good eye contact for periods of about 10 seconds, and then look away. This shows that you're actively listening. And so avoiding eye contact really gives that impression that you lack that confidence. So, and you don't want to overuse it either, and to make people uncomfortable. So just finding that happy medium and that happy balance between making that contact, but also exuding that confidence. So next, we're going to talk about communication and interview questions. Really, this is your chance to let yourself shine and really tell your story, but also demonstrate your skills and your experience in a way that directly advocates for yourself. These three tips are the some of the best practices we've come up with. So the first is the mirroring method, and that really is about adapting to the body language of your interview. This message is really used to establish coherence or consistency between you and the interviewer. It shows that you're engaged and that you're actively listening. Next, being confident while showcasing your abilities. This allows you to speak clearly, articulate what your skills and experience are. One caveat I would say to that is making sure you know your resume in and out, know your experiences in and out, so you can speak knowledgeably about your experience and your skills, and that's how you're going to be able to show that confidence. And then finally, this gives you an opportunity to start building rapport, to break the ice immediately. Try to find a connection with the interviewer. Maybe there was something on the website, or maybe there was something on LinkedIn. This is an opportunity to bring that to the forefront, so that you can show that you are knowledgeable, but you are up to date with what's going on. That is an excellent way to build rapport with the interviewer, and really start to establish that connection. So I want to talk a little bit about a few questions, common questions that you might get in the interview. Typically, we'll see that $1 million question of "Tell me about yourself," or "Why should I hire you?" Um, and first and foremost, when they say "Tell me about yourself," that does not mean regurgitate what's on your resume. Typically, what you'll want to do is describe who you are, what motivates you, what is unique about you, that sets you apart or helps you be the person or the right candidate for the organization. And then why should we hire you? That question really is about tapping into your skills and experience. And what you'll want to do is relate relate some of your past experiences and your skills directly to what they're looking for in the role and the opportunity. These questions are 90% of the time you're going to get a version of this question. And so you want to be prepared to be able to talk about yourself in a way that really showcases your skills and experience. A little bit more about the "Tell me about yourself." So what you'll do is describe a little bit about your background, identify 3 or 4 skills that you possess and what you can do for the company. Definitely leave out any personal information. And I apologize for the noise if you hear that. There's a storm going on in the background, so bear with us here. Leave out any personal information, with regards to, any sort of incidences or circumstances that you've been in or that you're going through. You'll definitely want to discuss your education and include any certificates or awards that you achieved or any accolades that you have that relate or demonstrate your ability to be successful, or that demonstrate high performance or your ability to execute. So there's a method to this when you're describing your experience and organizing your answers. We call it the CAR method. And this allows you to kind of get in the driver's seat and really, push the pedal when it comes to helping other people understand, what you bring to the table. So the first is C with the challenge, and that's really describing the situation, giving context and background information for what the environment was, what the task that you were responsible for, and that directly takes you into the action. What steps did you take to address a problem or resolve the situation? Talk a little bit about your approach, and how you went about resolving the issue, and making sure that the activities that you engaged in, demonstrating how they were productive, and then also describing the result. What were the outcomes? What kind of impact did your activity have? if it increased productivity, or if you were able to help more clients, or if you were able to close out their project under budget. You definitely want to be descriptive about what were some of the positive outcomes from as you described that experience. Next, you might get some behavior style interview questions. They may ask you, tell me how you worked effectively under pressure. Um, they'll want to know, how you approach different situations, how you handle challenges, how you react and collaborate with different team members. This is part of the storytelling where you get to demonstrate your ability to be agile and overcome different situations while also meet the demands of the task at hand. And so what they're really looking for are your behaviors and your character to determine whether or not you'll fit into the organization and how they can work with you. Okay, so 5 tips on answering interview questions. First is you want to watch your timing. You don't want to be too long-winded and telling long stories and taking too long to get to the point, because you can lose your audience right away. If let's say you get a question about, tell me about a time when things did not go so well. You still want to keep your energy high. You want to avoid monotones. You don't want to say anything negative about your employers. The general rule of thumb is if it was not a favorable outcome, talk about what you learned from the opportunity and how you were able to grow in a specific role. Remember that the interview is a two-way conversation. So, if you need for the interview to be repeated, you'll definitely want to ask that question. It's better to ask for clarity than to fumble along, giving an answer you think they may want to hear because you missed the question. So make sure that you're being on point and being concise about answering the interview questions as they're presented to you. And this to follow up with the listening, as far as being an active listener, but also listening carefully. Some questions are going to sound like they're going in one direction, but they end up in another. And so, for example, what skills do you have in dealing with upset customers, right? And so you want to make sure you're not too eager to chomp at the bit and get in there without hearing the full question or being contemplative and thinking about what your full answer may be. And so just being mindful of how you respond by making sure you take in all the information first before you just get in there and start answering the question. If in closing the interview, you always want to end on a strong, powerful note. And this is part of making that good impression. So make sure you have a list of questions prepared so that you can interview the interviewer. General rule of thumb, you want to think about 3 kind of categories of questions, okay? The first category is the business question. I like to say that, tell me a little bit more about where the business is headed, or how this role can be beneficial to your overall business plan or overall strategy. The next is the cultural question. That may be something like, tell me about the type of person that thrives best within the company culture. And then also the personal question, asking, for example, what is it you like about the work that you do or the team that you're working with? Those are good questions to begin with when you think about preparing a list of questions for the interview, and always ask for business cards, so that you can have their contact information going forward. And then here's a list of some possible interview questions. What is the size of the team I would be working with? What skills will make a new hire successful in this role? I particularly like this question because you're able to kind of tap into that person's brain for what they're looking for. What are the next steps in the process? You never want to leave an interview without knowing what's happening next. What are the days and hours for the position? Knowing that if the time and the schedule is going to work with your schedule, with your life. And how would you describe the company culture? This will help you determine whether how you can expand the culture. And I'll tell you, companies are always looking for people to not only fit but also expand their culture and be dynamic. And so these are some good cutscenes to keep in mind. And then finally, when it comes to business cards and closing, get business cards from everyone that you interview with. You never know who may be on vacation or who you may need to get in contact with. So you'll definitely want to make sure of that. Also, if it is like a Zoom interview, make sure that you ask for their contact information and write it down because you need this information to thank everybody. And then in the interview, make sure that you thank them for your time and really leave them with a note for why you want the opportunity, why you're the best candidate for the role, and if they have any other questions, how they can get in contact and follow up with you. And then finally, for the post-interview thank you tips, you want to make sure that you start off strong and you finish strong by giving a firm handshake and thanking them for the interview. Jotting down any key topics or interactions immediately after your interview that you can refer to in your follow-up. You want to keep your email brief. You want to respond within 24 hours. And again, explain why you're the best person for the job and ask any other questions that you may have for points of clarity. All of these tips are going to be, really critical in helping you be successful in the interview process. And so just remember that this is your time to showcase your skills and your experience and your confidence. And if you made it to the interview phase, there's something about you that they like. And so this is an opportunity to take it home to a certain extent, and making sure that you demonstrate and put yourself in the best position to secure the opportunity. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for taking the time to participate in this presentation. Again, we are really excited about the opportunity for you to engage with employers. The employers are eager and looking to add to their workforce. So this promised to be a very productive event. And so we look forward to having you all there. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Check our LinkedIn, check out our Facebook page, check out our website at EES4jobs.com for more information. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.